Welcome to the show, everyone. Today I have Doug Sandler with me, and we are going to talk about money.
It's one of my favorite subjects in the entire world to talk about. You know that.
I do. And I did promise this community more money podcasts.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you promised them more Doug Sandler.
That too. I did say that it would probably be you and I or solo shows, and I will do some solo shows on money, but we had a great conversation the other day about, and God, I hate the word mindset. So let's say point of view, money point of view, money beliefs when it comes to the difference between a employed person versus an entrepreneur. Now, you can be self-employed, and we discussed that still means that sometimes someone who is self-employed can act like, think like, believe like someone who is employed by somebody else. And I've also often heard people when thinking about buying something. Let's talk about your budget for a second. And I am not a budgeter. Doug is, okay?
So now wait, but budget is a funny word because budget sometimes, if you're listening to it from an interesting or unusual or a different perspective, budget might have a negative connotation. And budget definitely does not have a negative connotation for me. It's kind of like my guide wire. It is almost like I can see the mountain and there is a line that travels up the mountain and I'm just holding on to the line. The line equals my budget.
Right. Well, let's talk about the difference between someone who is employed and an entrepreneur. And before we get to that difference, let's talk about someone who is employed versus someone who is self-employed, because we discussed that yesterday in the hot tub. Because I know some people who are self-employed who act like they're employed by somebody else, which what that means to me is that you don't feel the freedom that an entrepreneur feels. You don't feel the responsibility or the opportunity, maybe that's the key word here, opportunity that an entrepreneur might feel or look at the world. So I know a few people out there, some of you, you have your own business, but you got your business like by default. In fact, one of my friends years ago became an entrepreneur by default, although as we were discussing, she would never consider herself an entrepreneur. She's just self-employed. She went from being employed somewhere where she hated and having side jobs to one day being fired and let go from her full-time job, which provided her insurance, and then having a bunch of little side jobs, which then equaled her being self-employed. But she still worked for somebody else, like other businesses. She was teaching dance classes. She was choreographing. She was giving tours in her local city. She was doing a bunch of different things, which all equaled up to, in terms of money, probably the same paycheck that she got being employed by another company, but she was running her own business. So when Doug and I discussed this yesterday, it became clear that some people who have their own business still don't think like an entrepreneur. And that's where I want to encourage you guys that are listening, regardless of what category you fall under, whether it be employed by somebody else completely, self-employed, or you're an entrepreneur. Let's discuss the differences. Because when it comes to money, to me, this is like the foundation of how you look at money. If I'm employed, and boy, have I had this experience with other people in my life. If you're employed, you get a paycheck and you know exactly every month how much you're going to get, unless you work on commission and sales. That's different, but maybe you know a baseline. Then you take your expenses, you know what your expenses are, and then you know what you're left over with. So it always would make me crazy when people that I knew in the past would overspend a lot all the time above what they brought in. Because I thought, well, you know what your budget is because you have the same paycheck every month. Now, I don't, because I'm an entrepreneur. My income changes daily. It changes, maybe there's some trends over the years that I could point to, but generally it's very different all the time. So I've never been able to really want to keep to a budget because my income changes. Now let's move to someone who is self-employed. And my excuse for a long time of not using a budget was because I didn't know what my income was going to be. Because literally it could go so far up and so far down and so dramatic based on many factors that I thought, well, I don't know how to make one budget in order to, because I don't know what my income's going to be. And honestly, That's still the same today. I have better guidelines, I have more metrics, I have more experience and time under my belt, but it's still the same for me. But regardless of what the budget piece is, here's the mental mindset, belief system point of view that I want to talk about. A few of you out there are considering investing in yourself, whether it be in one of my programs, in the mastermind, in, travel for yourself, or in doing something for yourself. And what happens is this scarcity of money comes up because you look at how much you make and then you go, "Oh my God, where am I going to find that money?" And that became really painfully clear with some of you out there that are self-employed. And I look at it and say, well, that's the wrong question. You don't ask, how am I going to find the money in what you already make? You ask, how am I going to make the money? And that, I think, outlines the difference between an entrepreneur and an employed person, whether you're self-employed or not. Doug.
100% agree. I was smiling as you were saying that because I keep thinking it's not a finite well. You can go back to the well as many times as you choose to be able to afford or spend or invest or whatever you want to consider the outgo of money. The well is not finite. The well is infinite. There is an abundance of money in that well. And it doesn't mean, and I know we'll touch on this probably later in this episode or maybe another episode, but I really want to emphasize the correlation between working harder and making more money. There is no correlation between the more hours you work and the more money you make. You actually can work less hours and make more money if you plan properly, if you budget your time properly, and because that's another thing that entrepreneurs know how to do really well or should learn through the process of budgeting their time, because that finite thought process that how can I afford this, it if you have to train your brain to think, where can I go to look for opportunity so that I can invest in this program, which ultimately is going to reward me with the benefit of more money coming in the door.
Or becoming a better person in the ways of your frequency that you can sustain, removing blocks to success because you're a happier person and you feel more confident. I want to give you a real world example of how I have applied this to my own life, and I'll do it in the last year. So, as many of you know that have been following me for a while, I've had 2 years of empowerment strategist certification. This year, I did a 6-month deep dive. Last year, I tested out a 3-month beta, and while there were some amazing results that happened with the folks that were in that group, I didn't feel like it was enough time for integration of the material. It was too much material in too short of a time. So I thought, I'm not going to do it again. And you've heard this story before. So here I'm in the 6-month, and I'm open to, how do I create another 3-month program that really has really amazing value for people, and I feel good about the results that they can make in that amount of time. And part of it was because, honestly, I invested in my wine project this year. So I needed to pay for that wine project. And when I thought of, well, the programs that I have right now aren't enough, but at the same time, my integrity said I can't sell something I don't believe in. So I kept waiting and I kept waiting and I kept waiting. And in the 6-month deep dive this year, it became clear how I could create a 3-month program that I would feel good about, testing. And of course, I've tested it and I feel very good about it. But I waited. And then, of course, the minute I figured it out, I turned around and I offered it. I created a whole new program out of thin air to help me pay for my wine project because I've invested a lot of money in my wine. And now I didn't do it from an idea of scarcity because I could have created something just to make money, but that wouldn't have felt good for me and that wouldn't have created a good reputation for me. You know that I really want to make effective programs that change your life. And so for me, I thought, well, I knew that 3 months for a lot of people was an easier sell than 6 months. But yet I couldn't find how to do it. I just waited until the right moment, until it was clear to me. And then I took the bull by the horns and I made that program and I offered it to you guys. And it was the most successful application process I've had yet. And probably one of my most successful programs. And part of it was because I knew selling 3 months was easier than selling 6, but I didn't know how to do it. But I also did it because I needed to pay for my wine. So that's an example of, you're in a situation where you want something. You want to invest in your future. You want to grow. You want to learn. You want to travel. You want to do whatever you want to do. And you look at your income. Now, if you're an employed person by somebody else, you have two options. You look at your paycheck and you say, well, I can't do it, or I'm going to save money for 20 million years before I can do anything of importance that I want to do past my budget. Or you can, on the flip side, ask the question entrepreneurs ask, how can I? How can I get creative about making money on the side? And there's a million ways to do it. You could become an affiliate of my stuff. Anyone that's taken any of my programs, jjflazanes.com/affiliate, if you sell any of my courses, the online courses, you get 50% commission. That's an easy sell for those of you that have been clients of mine, because you've taken the program and you believe in it. You just tell somebody about it, they buy it, and I hand you money. Things like that can become very easy. Now, there are other ways to become creative with how to bring in more money. But the point of today's episode is to expand your mind to ask different questions, because those of you, even self-employed, who aren't entrepreneurs, and you have your, which I think is kind of interesting, because if you're self-employed, you make your own schedule, you make your own offerings, you make your own pricing, you make your own time, you make your own menu of services that you provide. So why not expand past that and stretch into, well, I know the answer, but why not stretch into creating more opportunity, increasing your prices, offering different things, getting different kinds of business? So to me, this mindset piece, which I hate the word, I hate that word, this point of view, what would you call it, Doug? Is there another word you can think of? Because mindset just bugs
Well,
me.
I think you have a negative, just like people have a negative connotation of budget, you have a negative connotation of mindset. Whatever it is that gets you to understand that your brain needs to be focused on a different target.
Well, mindset to me feels like you're changing your hat. Like you're putting a hat on your head, and somehow that hat is going to control how your brain works. And I'm saying that you can take the hat off as easily as you can put it on. The hat's not going to be the most penetrable influence in changing your habits and patterns on how you see the world
Just
or how
change
you
your
do things.
perspective. Just change your perspective, how you're looking at money, how you're looking at your time, how you're looking at your freedom. That what's the expression? Necessity is the birthplace of invention. Well, really, in this case, it's necessity is the mother of innovation. You have to innovate. You have to think outside the box. You have to think differently. It's not what am I going to the pool for? It's how can I dig another pool so I have a whole other opportunity for myself, for my family, for my business. Isn't there some level of excitement when you're able to discover something new and go in that direction, and while maintaining what you're currently doing? I love that. I love all of these little projects that I have going on in my life, whether it's the financing program for some of the people that run through your program, or the Mustang podcast, which started out as a passion project, which became a moneymaker for me. There are so many opportunities to make money and to find opportunity for yourselves. You just have to look for it. It's there.
All right, so let's talk about some ideas. Let's brainstorm with you guys out there about things that you want to do, because here's what I'm tired of hearing, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but when I hear I can't afford that. Well, who tells you can't afford something? Because your employer only pays you X amount, therefore your employer is in charge of how much money you're ever going to make. Do you understand how that is not empowering? That is victim mentality right then and there, because you have a job and someone else is in charge of your self-worth. Now, if you love the stability of having a job, I get that. But that doesn't mean you can't make money outside of your job. Because if you don't actually try to make money outside of your job, then you're literally saying that whatever your employer pays you is exactly what you're worth. Which, again, if you listen to the show, you understand that I don't believe that. And I hope you don't either. So if you want to invest in a program, in a class, in a course, in travel, in a new part of your house. Okay, so as a lot of you know, we redid our bathroom this year, and it was supposed to be a guest house that we were going to do. But when I looked at the financial piece, and forget the permit, still don't have a permit. We've been here over 2 years. I still don't have a permit for my guest house. But I thought, well, you know what? I'm tired of waiting for the city to give me a permit. We have enough money to pay for, without doing anything with a loan or credit, to pay for our bathroom. And I really want this new bathroom because I'm tired of this ugly bathroom that was here when we got here. So we moved forward with the bathroom. So that project is done. So now we have two more projects in the near future, and they're both quite high in terms of their expense. So, part of what I'm thinking about is, what am I going to create? How am I going to make that money? One of them may require a loan, but I'd like the other one to not require a loan. I don't want to go after two loans. I'd like to make the money to do one of them. So you're looking at your future. You're looking at what you need or what you think you want. How can you make some extra money? Doug, what would you tell somebody who had a job, worked for somebody else, got a steady paycheck didn't really go up or down? What would be some ideas you would have for somebody?
I would try to. What's their gift? What is the gift that they have to the world? What do they do with their regular job that they could take a portion of that and maybe sell that to a different market? You don't want to compete with your current employer. If your current employer is a florist, you don't want to open up a floral shop and have that. But how about doing something when it comes to, if you love floral design, maybe you can do something with floral design, or maybe you can become a consultant or help somebody else to understand how the floral business works. There are so many, you just have to think creatively. What is it that you're passionate about? What hobbies do you have? I have a 65 Mustang. I'm a fan of classic cars. I have figured out a way through my podcast. While I originally started the podcast as a passion project, I figured out a way to rent my car, and then when I bought a truck, to rent my truck for photo shoots. Then I thought of a way to, well, maybe I could get some sponsors, and the sponsors would pay me money to be on the podcast, and then maybe I'll figure out a way for them to supply me with parts for my car. So now I have a passion project, something I love doing, which was a hobby of mine, and it's developed into, it's not an earth-shattering business, but at the same time, it's not only an income producer, it's also a write-off for me. So think about the things that you love doing, that you're passionate about, maybe a hobby or something like that, where you could expand upon it and start a business.
Now, some of the MLMs out there, so if any of you work with them, I'm not bashing all of them, but I've done a lot of them. And I will say, some of them you spend more than you ever make. So be wary and cautious when you're out there selling someone else's product on the compensation structure and how much product you need to buy before you start to make money. Just because a lot of them, they sell you on the idea of, oh, you can make a lot of money, you can make a lot of income. Right, but you have to work harder and you have to spend more time doing those things. I've done so many of them.
I think your easiest path to profit is to bootstrap whatever you are doing, meaning you are starting it. Let's take somebody that loves to be in the kitchen. They have a job that's an accountant, but they love to be in the kitchen and bake. Well, you could start a cookie business, or you could start a bakery, or you don't have to be in a commercial establishment, and you can sell just to family and friends in the beginning, and you don't have to worry about all of the licensing and all of the things that are attached to being a baker in the health department and all of that. Just get yourself started. Don't look at something and have to know everything about it before you get rolling. The idea of a multi-level or a direct sales business, I'm not opposed to direct sales or multi-level, but like you said, there are so many angles and avenues and ways that those companies are in business to try to make money from you being in business. And I think that there is a much more effective, safer, and faster path to profit than going to work for another organization. Start your own thing.
Definitely start your own thing. And unless, again, you can be an affiliate of my stuff and it's higher priced. So for, a $300 course, you make $150 by selling one of them. So if you know enough people that are interested in learning about how to strengthen their intuition or how to master using the law of attraction, these would be things that you could sell that would make you a higher dollar amount.
But that would be if that excites you.
Right. Well, they're listening to my show. I'm just giving them that as an example.
I'm with you. I look at it and think, I took all of the old cat, what do you call these things that are in our house? The cat condos?
Cat scratchers.
The cat scratchers. And I'm like, hey, it's so easy for me to fix these things. And then I thought just briefly of an idea of, well, why don't I make some of these and try to sell them locally at like a flea market or a yard sale? But then again, it wasn't like something that really drove me. But there are people that love pets, and maybe they like doing stuff, and maybe they're very handy. You saw the cat scratcher that I built, the cat tree that I built outside out of literally a fallen tree from our backyard, and it's cool. And could I make money from that? Yes. Would I be able to make enough to support a side hustle or other opportunity? I don't know. It depends on how many I'd have to sell. But there are so many ways that you can do something on your own without getting involved in another organization to get started.
I want to go back to what you said about someone who cooks or bakes. You could do farmers markets, even if you did them once or twice a month. That could be, again, enough extra cash for you to invest in yourself to whatever, get more education, learn new things, buy a new thing for yourself.
The coffee guy at the flea market, I mean, at the farmer's market, is making a mint. I mean, at $4 for a cup of coffee, he is definitely in a line all the time. It is amazing the things that you can do, and that you don't have to think about, well, I have to get up every Sunday in order to do that, and that's going to take more of my free time. Maybe in the beginning it is a little bit more of a time suck than it will be in a year from now. So don't worry about outlining the entire path right now. Just get started. When you get started, and I think you said it earlier, when you change the way that, what's the expression? When you
Change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah, and it is so true when it comes to opportunity. If you change how you look at opportunity and don't look at opportunity as limited, but you look at it as unlimited, you will find unlimited opportunity out there for you.
I want to do a shout out to Karen, who's a listener and a client and a member of Empower You. And Karen's going to smile when she hears this because that was one of the things we worked on in our first session. She's currently doing the Rewire program in September. And Karen is a chef. And so I'm going to give a shout out to Karen. Anyone that lives in New Jersey or even in New York City who's looking for a private chef, Karen is potentially available. Now, she's a private chef, but she's currently not cooking. She's working in sort of the corporate structure of catering. But her hands aren't dealing with food on a regular basis, and she loves to cook. So I said, Karen, why don't you just think about once a month doing some kind of event, private chefing event for either somebody's dinner party or, a networking event, whatever. Something where someone's hiring you to come into their kitchen and provide the meal for the night. And she got lit up when she thought about that. And so this is, again, something that once a month, if you can create anything that you want to based on what Doug was talking about, whatever your gifts and talents are, whatever your passions are. So I want you all to, for a second, and maybe do this as an exercise, write down everything that comes to mind about things that you love to do, things that you love to do so much, you do them for free. Because those are the things that other people value and will pay for. And if you're not charging for them, and again, yes, of course, you're giving things to your family and to friends and you love doing it. Okay, great. So what if you were to take that passion and that thing that you love to do over and over again for free and just package it and sell it to some people?
You have a friend, Julie, who loves vintage, and the opportunity to be a vintage shopper or someone that goes to vintage places and buys things and resells them online or eBay. That was one of those like new ideas, and I think that's a great idea. I mean, that charges me because I love vintage also, and I can imagine having a vintage business of some sort, completely unrelated to podcast production or my Mustang business or any of the other ventures that I'm involved in. But why not? It seems like that's a fun thing. Whatever it is that seems like it would be fun for you, and you don't have to know everything right out of the gate. You'll learn as you go. You just have to know the building blocks in the beginning, and you can use outlets like meetups and BNI to network with other people that might be interested in having your services delivered to them.
So in this vein of understanding, adjusting, changing, growing, expanding your point of view, your interpretation, the way that you look at things, I did want to announce two things that are happening right now. So I'd love to invite you to a free webinar that I'm doing on October 24th called What Blocks Your Brilliance? A New Way to Unlock Your Genius. You can go to jjfilzanes.com/brilliance. It's on Tuesday, October 24th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be about 90 minutes. And those who attend live will get a free brain training gift because, of course, I prefer to have you show up if you can because it's much more fun to do this class with you than to do it and then have you watch it in replay. However, there will be a replay for 48 hours. If you can't make it live, please still sign up so that you can get the replay. So again, it's What Blocks Your Brilliance? A new way to unlock your genius. jjfilzanes.com/brilliance, free webinar. And then the next thing that I'm very excited to announce to you guys, and I'm giving you a little extra time because I was actually not going to announce this until October. I'm doing another Awaken Your Dream Life, but this time it's going to be virtual. It's going to be in January of 2024, starting on January 13th, which is a Saturday, and then 3 Wednesdays after that. We're going to take the material from Awaken Your Dream Life. We're going to extend it through a month so that way you can actually integrate what we learn in the class and into your body, into your life, into your habits. And then that way you can start off 2024 with unblocking your brilliance, with taking this new perspective on investing in you, on looking at what your genius is, looking at what your passions are, and I don't say capitalize on it in a bad way, but utilize it. Use it to enhance your life. If you're someone who keeps wishing that you could do X, Y, and Z, but you keep making up the same story that you can't afford it, well, is it now the time for you to change that story? Because that story is never going to get you there. So right now is an early bird special for that live virtual class, Awaken Your Dream Life event. jjfilzanes.com/dreamlife. On October 25th, it goes up in price. And it's going to be an amazing class because we're going to have so many different features than we did at the live event and time to integrate. And I think that's the most important thing, besides the fact that everyone everywhere can participate because it will be recorded and there will be not only weekly calls in between, but there'll be a Facebook group and a Marco group. And if you don't know what that is, I'll explain it on another podcast, but it's a huge value add. I charge thousands of dollars for people to be a part of a small coaching group that get Marco access. We're going to divide you into smaller groups so that you can keep accountable and ask questions every day if you want to. So I invite you to take a look, jjfilzanes.com/dreamlife to get your early bird ticket now. And if you're just curious about what is blocking your brilliance, definitely sign up for the webinar because we're having this conversation about money because, again, the complaint I hear, oh my God, I really want to do that. Oh, I'd love to do work with you. Oh, I'd love to do that, but I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. Well, the difference between how you and I think, or Doug and I think, versus how some of you think, is that we say, how can I afford it? What do I need to sell? What do I need to create? What opportunity do I need to take advantage of or create for myself in order to get that met? Because guys, if you literally leave it up to your employer to decide what you will and won't do for the rest of your life based on the income that they're providing you, it's no wonder why people are frustrated. I want you to take your power back in your finances. Any last words, Doug, about that idea?
I'm excited for the virtual. You were telling me about that before this recording a few days ago, and I was thinking, what a great idea to put this together. I'm excited to hear about it.
Great. So again, all the links will be in the show notes, and hopefully you have a list of things that you've curated for yourself after today's podcast or during today's podcast about different ways for you to manifest more money, bring in more opportunity for money in ways that please you, in ways that align with you, in ways that feel good to you, but that are different than the way that you make money now. And I can't wait to hear about it, and I can't wait to see you at Awaken Your Dream Life.
Let's go, entrepreneurs.